Hello students, I heartily welcome you. All of us we know that you have been promoted to second year now. Uh, Today I felt like to begin with the syllabus of yours, the marks allotted, right? But then I changed my mind because the first session for the beginning of PU2, it should not be monotonous, right? So uh, I thought of to begin your PU2 session for English with the nice piece of literature that is Romeo and Juliet. Romeo and Juliet is written by William Shakespeare, and as all of us we know, uh, William Shakespeare is one of the best writer uh, who started his writing in the Elizabethan era. Before William Shakespeare, there was one more playwright, his name was Christopher Marlowe. Christopher Marlowe was, was the pioneer, you can say, of writing the plays in some different way. Different way means previously all of them they used to follow the Greek way, Greek pattern of writing a drama. I'm not saying that Marlowe or Shakespeare they have overthrown entirely the idea, but they have improvised this idea in a different way. That means, see, the characters are more prominent in Shakespeare's writing, in Marlowe's writing. The tragedy, the concept of tragedy and comedy, it has been inculcated and executed in completely different way, right? So Romeo and Juliet is one of the best ever tragedy written by Shakespeare. Now, tragedy, tragedy means which ends in sadness, right? So, sadness means, say, most of the cases we can see the protagonist, the main character, he dies at the end, right? So it creates the immense sadness in the mind of the reader, right? So this is obvious. That means in Shakespeare's time, or you say in Marlowe's time, it was the obvious thing that as the protagonist die, so the readers will feel sadness. Got it? So the readers will feel a disparity, right? So this is very obvious during those era of Elizabethan era, I mean to say. So here we can see Romeo and Juliet. Now in Romeo and Juliet, it begins with two feuding families conflict, right? And a few things that I like to tell you. Here, this entire story is based on the place Verona, Italy. So these two are the Italian lovers, we can say. And most prominent thing here we can see that is feuding families, star-crossed lovers, then thick friendship, right? The meaning of friendship, and the entire thing is written in a figurative language. Okay, so let us back to the story. What the story says that two noble families used to live in Verona, right? They were the sworn enemy of each other, right? They are the Capulets and the Montagues, the staunch enemies. Romeo and Juliet, both of them, they belong to the rival families. So that is the beginning and that is the foundation of the story that we will understand. Old Lord Capulet, he was Juliet's father, right? And Romeo belongs to the Montagues. Fine. Now, how much they were bloodthirsty for each other. that we will go for the next. Whenever they used to meet in street or wherever, they couldn't tolerate each other. Every time they used to engage in a brawl, they used to fight, shed blood, and even kill each other. So this was the daily occurrences of these two families, right? And the, the you know the king, the prince Aeschylus, right? He was really, really fed up. He was irritated by this unruly behavior of these two families, right? Prince Aeschylus then once announced that if he finds the fault, that means if further there is any breach and if they involved in a brawl further, then that will cause them death, punishment, or imprisonment, or he will banish them from this country. Now, let me introduce our Romeo. Romeo was not very happy, as we see in the beginning of the story. Romeo was very, very depressed. He was unhappy as he speaks to his friend Mercutio. He says that he is unhappy because he is in deep love with Rosalind. Now, who is Rosalind? Rosalind is a girl who belongs to Capulet, that means his rival family. But in case of this teenage love, that is the puppy love, family, this rival families, none of them perhaps they consider. But Rosalind, maybe she was involved in some other person, so she declined Romeo's love. That means she didn't properly reciprocate to Romeo's love. So Romeo was very, very unhappy. He was in despair. And he spoke to Mercutio, right? So Mercutio and Benvolio, both of them, they are very close to Romeo. They suggested, they overheard that Lord Capulet is going to hold a party where Prince, that means one of the close assistant of Prince Aeschylus, who belongs to the royal family, he was invited for Capulet's ball, Capulet's party, so that if Juliet, that means Lord Capulet's daughter, gets involved in love, or if Paris marries Juliet, then their family, standard of the family will be elevated. Here, one thing I need to tell you, that those days, the different layers of families, family matter, family, status, it was very much, well acknowledged, right? So, Lord Capulet was very particular that Juliet, the prettiest girl, the captivating beauty, the divinal beauty she has, she will, offer her to Paris, right? So there was a ball party. And here, see, Romeo and Romeo, Benvolio, and Mercutio overheard this, and they decided to attend the party in disguise. You can see that it is the masked one. Okay, so this party, they used mask, and so they won't be recognized to be a Capulet, right? And then, as the plan says, Romeo in disguise, Mercutio and Benvolio, this trio, they entered to the party, right? Here, Romeo got a chance to see Juliet. But you will have to remember, Romeo has come for in search of Rosalind. But as Romeo saw Juliet's captivating, her cherubic beauty, he was totally mesmerized, right? And he felt like that the previous one, that Miss Rosalind, that was nothing but an infatuation. He has never fallen in true love. Okay, he completely denied his infatuation for Rosalind, and he started praising Juliet, right? Then next we can see that even Juliet, though Juliet first in the first approach of Romeo, she didn't know that who Romeo is. Even Romeo didn't know. But gradually, the nods of Juliet let Romeo know that who Juliet is, right? Then Romeo was mesmerized. He completely surrendered. And in the meantime, Tybalt, Juliet's brother, cousin, he recognized Romeo, and immediately he was infuriated with anger. He wanted to slash him down, but here Juliet's father, Lord Capulet, intervened, and he rescued Romeo and threw him out of the palace. But you know, the love never listens. Love is blind, right? And Romeo refuses to accompany his friends. Rather, he secretly entered in the palace again, right? And he found that Juliet was in her balcony. He managed to come to the balcony, and this balcony scene you have in your syllabus. Though Lord Capulet intervened and spared Romeo, but Juliet's cousin couldn't spare this deception. That means deception of this trio that happened in the masquerade party, right? Then Tybalt planned for something more serious. Here, Juliet could speak to Romeo and Romeo could speak to Juliet. But as there was the uncertainty, right, a lot of uncertainty in their love, they couldn't trust the situation. I'm not saying that they couldn't trust each other. They were in the deep love at the first sight of each other. But Romeo, before leaving Juliet's place, he wanted to take a vow, a promise. And so Juliet, both of them, they decide to get married secretly. Juliet was very young, of 13 years old, but these two teenage lovers, these two star-crossed lovers, they decided, they made a plan to marry each other secretly, right? Friar, the priest, Romeo approached to him regarding his marriage, and he agreed to do so, right? Now, this two, they got married. The very next morning, Tybalt had a deadly plan. He came all the way riding on his horse and just taking his sword to kill Romeo. He called Romeo for a duel, right? Romeo, he was not interested, as because Tybalt was Juliet's brother. But he didn't listen, and Mercutio, instead of Romeo, he stood to face Tybalt. And as he slashed him down, Mercutio was dead. Romeo attacked immediately Tybalt, and in that duel, Tybalt was killed. So this incident, again flared up the dispute, the confrontation, the brawl, and the bloodshedding between these two families. Now, here you can see this two got married secretly. But as you can remember, Prince Aeschylus made his stand clear that if there is another brawl, if there is another bloodshed, then the person will be imprisoned or he will banish him, right? Romeo got his punishment. He was banished from Verona, right? Romeo has to leave the city Verona. Juliet was in tears, right? But the destiny has a separate plan for them. Romeo has to be separated from Juliet. The very next day, Juliet's family decided that Juliet should get married to Paris. Juliet was very unhappy to listen to this. Juliet has no clue what to do. She made play, and Prayer decided to offer him a medicine, a kind of medicine which will make her unconscious for 48 hours, right? So she wanted to prove herself dead, right? But she originally she won't be, right? And in the meantime, Fred decided that he should send a message to Romeo so he could come back secretly and could reunite with his newly married wife Juliet. Juliet speaks to her father that she has decided and she has prepared mentally that she should offer herself to Prince, and by listening to her words, her father was really very happy. On the day of marriage, Juliet consumes that medicine, and she had a deadly sleep. Her nurse watched and she started crying. Romeo has to receive a letter from Fayed that Juliet is not really dead, but she has a deadly unconsciousness which can be removed from her after 48 hours. So, Romeo can make his appearance before her and both of them they reconcile. But unfortunately, this letter was not reached to Romeo. Romeo didn't get that letter as because the messenger fell sick on his way. Romeo came to know the situation that Juliet is dead, and he was mad. He was sad, and when he came to Juliet, he found Juliet, the dead Juliet, was lying in the family vault, right, in her coffin. And Romeo has really no clue what to do, and he found the bottle of poison near Juliet in her coffin. Immediately, Romeo took his decision that he will reunite with Juliet in heaven after death. He decided he will commit suicide. He consumes the poison and he was dead, right? When Juliet got up, he found Romeo dead, right? And as she was really upset that after all this, she has to live alone, or she has to got married to the person whom she has never chosen. She decided to commit suicide, right? And she committed suicide, and both of them, they were dead at the end, and that was the tragic end. After which, after the suicide of these two kids, their family, that means Capulet and the Montague, both of them, they reunited. Okay, so this is the